Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CoinNewsExtra interview session. So today we have a gentleman joining us to talk about a very good topic. So we have Trekk. Trekk is the founder of Trekk Smart Consulting. Trekk, you are welcome to CoinNewsExtra.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on. I've been seeing your stuff pop up in my LinkedIn feed, so I'm really humbled that you guys actually reached out to talk with me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. So, Trekk, you are also the host of Thursday Blackness, a program that encourages young Black people in the ecosystem that are doing great. It's our pleasure to have you on the show. Can you just give us a brief about yourself, your background?
Okay. So I initially became crypto conscious back in 2011 off of a show in the States called Off the Hook. If you know anything about WBAI in the New York region. I didn't actually get skin in the game, as they say, until there was 2013. First thing, of course, was Bitcoin. It was a different, era, mindset, and everything back then. And I didn't really step up to the level of I want to do a business that's related to blockchain and crypto until 2018, when I came off of my second deployment, because I didn't want to do defense contracting anymore. Initially, I was looking to be a smart contract auditor, but things brought me into the content creation space. And then more recently, I did a pivot this year, actually, with the whole COVID thing, that brought me into storytelling, aka branding and brand positioning, specifically related to blockchain crypto businesses.
Okay, that's very, very nice. So we are talking about the ecosystem, MAME and the T plus E equals to T as a topic for today's interview. So before I ask you what that really means, how do you see mass crypto adoption in the next coming decade?
I did a speech presentation thing about this in Canada in January. For me, and how I look at mass adoption involves three elements. You got the cultural dynamics, which is the people on the ground. You have the top-down, bottom-up model, which is between the government and the people, i.e. kind of the social contract concept. And then you have innovation and based on open source technologies. And when we look at mass adoption, generally people ask this one question of when, they want a time and date, but it's not really about a time and date thing. It's about small incremental moves that after a certain time period reach to where we can say, okay, X amount of a population in a given region or on a local scale use this thing within the more near everyday aspects of their life. So case in point, we talk about how, most people would consider that banking is something that has reached levels of mass adoption. But if you look at the numbers, globally speaking, most people cannot use a traditional bank because they either don't have an ID or don't have locational access to a bank in a traditional sense of a bank. So if the majority of people in the globe are not banked, how do we still argue, in my point of view, that banking is something that has reached mass adoption and has been around forever? When it comes to this whole blockchain crypto thing, I think that there will be various ways, and that it will be it's being in the adoption process now. We just haven't reached what they call the tipping point. And then I also think that it's more so about how we take the popular narrative of what is mass adoption. Is it a first tier country thing? Is it a second tier country thing? I guess it kind of depends on where you are and what you need it for.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I know I put a lot into that condensed wise, but
okay, no problem. So your topic today is meme and T plus E equals to T. So what the question I'll ask, what's the T plus E equals to T?
All right, so I am not by far the originator of that equation. I do look to use that equation in how I interact with clients that I work with for my company. Again, I deal with thinkers and doers in the blockchain crypto space and help them create a concise message that helps connect them to the end users that they would like. And so the idea being is you got to have trust, you add empathy, sorry, you add transparency plus empathy, and that equals trust. So T plus E equals T. Um, for how I'm looking at things right now and for what I kind of see going forward within this decade, and what COVID has kind of done to the business world, if you were not from the get-go of your business looking to be transparent about like what your business does, how you're, providing products and services to your customers, and then like showing empathy in regards to what they're going through, not just like, oh, I have a product and I'm going to push it on the market. You're not going to build the trust. And going forward, it's going to be more of a rat race to be able to stand out from other companies because everything is basically a Me Too business. Meaning, if I'm a hairdresser here in this city, there's at least 100 other hairdressers, right? If I'm a manufacturer of sneakers, there's 100 other manufacturers of sneakers. So it's not about the product or service. It's about how the people are connecting to trust your brand. And your brand has, in my mind, has to be based on transparency and empathy. That's just how I put it up.
Okay, based on transparency and empathy. So looking at COVID-19, what it has really caused and the way it has really changed things. How do you see COVID-19 affecting the remote work movement?
Whew. I think that this initial push that has been going on about the whole work from home thing, the U.S. is a predominantly consumer-based market, or how we come up with our productions and stuff. Now, when we get into the whole thing about business and who is a employee that can do the whole remote work thing, in my mind, what is not being added in the conversation is that the U.S. is, relatively speaking, just coming to that particular race of remote work. And yes, there are segments of workers, office workers, admin level workers who have been doing stuff for like 5-10 years. But in the overall, the US market and how we do our generation of GDP and all that stuff, as far as the work and businesses, is not based on the office side stuff. It's based on consumer side stuff and to a degree production of stuff, but it's more along the lines of retail. So the point of where I go with this is we're just coming to that race, right? We're then going to have to start talking about the competition that's going to be between us and the Africa, as far as Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Eastern Europe, the Philippines, Bali, Malaysia. Those areas have already been in remote work for more than a decade, and where sizable segments of their population have been a part of it. So now you are bringing the American Western people into it, who are going to want a certain price point for their services. And then you're trying to compete with somebody who's going to be 1/3, 1/5 of what you would be. I think that this conversation is being pushed in a very small scope to what the reality of the global environment is when it comes to remote work. Okay. So we're going to have a lot of growing pains in the States.
Interesting. I want to go back to the T plus E equals to E. It says trust and empathy. So how do you see brand development affecting this space?
Again, it's not going to be about the product anymore, because if there's so put it this way, right? One of the things that's being also talked about within this whole remote work thing is that more companies are going to have to push into the digital space. So as before, where you were a storefront who was competing with 3 other bakers that were in your town or your city, now you have to now market your stuff online even more. And then if someone figures out, and they probably have it somehow one way or the other, where you can order your stuff 2 towns away and then get it like dry freezed and shipped to you within 24 hours, you just scaled up your competition level. The branding part is that you now have to do something to differentiate yourself from the other businesses that do the same thing you're doing. Because just saying, oh, look, I have this cake. Oh, look, I do shirts. Oh, look, I do sneakers, or I provide accounting services isn't going to cut it anymore, because the new scale for judgment is not going to be about what your product is. It's going to be based on how are people connecting with you. Are you being transparent in regards to how your ingredients are put together for your cake? Are you being transparent in regards to like where your product is actually manufactured and like the type of workers you use? And are you doing fair labor laws? Those are things that, give transparency to the back end of what's going on in that company. And consumers, customers, clients, they're going to want to know those things. And that's going to be part of that differentiating thing that like will help you stand out. It's not 100% guarantee. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying it will greatly impact your business going forward into this decade, because the competition scale is going to move up, because more businesses will have to expand their online presence.
Okay, interestingly, Trek, you are the founder of Trekk Smart Consult. Is your company in the blockchain ecosystem, and how does your company make impact in the ecosystem?
So again, when I initially looked to start it, I was looking to be a smart contract dev. So I was looking to deal with Ethereum and learn the whole coding thing. And things brought me over to the content side, which then got me into writing, which got me to look more about how people receive information and how people understand things, and how you have to give people context. It's not just throwing facts and like thinking that if I give little 2-minute instructions, everyone's going to get it. And that got me to where I am now with the whole storytelling branding thing. My focus is on companies that are small businesses and startups within the blockchain crypto space. As far as your company might not be, you have your own blockchain or something like that, but you do payment processing using crypto, like that's an option for you. Or you're looking to be a vendor host or something like that, or you're looking to provide some other kind of admin service, like let's say you're talking about like land titles and stuff like that. I'm focused on those type of companies that need help in coming up with a concise message that helps people who are either in the space or like coming new to the space to connect with them. And I think that even though we're like, 11 years at it now, we still have an issue with translating what does all of this new fancy tech stuff means to people who don't care about tech.
Okay, interesting. Finally, before we draw the curtain on today's interview session, you are the host of Thursday Blackness, and you is a program to
Yes.
scholar people encourage blacks who are doing well in the ecosystem. What is it all about, and what brought about Thursday Blackness?
Okay, so Thursday Blackness is one of the vlogs that I do Monday through Friday. Each day has a different theme to it. The Thursday Blackness thing was my response to being annoyed and tired of hearing in the blockchain crypto space and in the tech space in general how, we can't ever find a black person who knows about this thing to speak at our conference or do an interview. And there was a lady that I know also on LinkedIn named Deidre. I forget how to say her last name right now, but she gave me this list that had like 100, black entrepreneurs.
Okay, McIntyre.
Block.
Is it McIntyre?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we were talking about it, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna start like giving salutes and letting people know who's on this list. And that was like over a year ago now. So every Thursday, I drop a new person's name. And it's just the whole thing of we have been a part of every tech movement and even non-technical things from day one and across the globe. So whether you want to say something in Africa, whether you want to say something in Europe, whether you want to say something over here in the US, South America, whatever. 8 times out of 10, historically speaking, there is some black person somehow connected to it. There's a Nigerian dude who has some of the earliest patents on the internet, and he gets like no, he doesn't get his full accolades is my issue. And again, in regards to this whole blockchain crypto space thing, I was getting annoyed at how we kind of saw the decade go out where there wasn't representation of the folks that I know are in the space. And then when you get outside of the US, this is another thing that kind of annoyed me was, especially once I went to South Africa, and it was like, wow, there's a whole continent that has a bunch of people who look like me who are doing their stuff in the space. Like they're inventing, they're being influencers, they're being innovators, all different applications of blockchain technology. And the American like community realm of the space, there's a small minority of folks who are even halfway aware of what's going on in the various countries in Africa and the people who are actually doing their stuff. And even like going further east and like going up towards Europe. And I just wanted to do my part to give the highlight and let people know, hey, here's this person over here, they're a reporter. Here's this person over here, they're an inventor. Here's this person over here, they're an influencer. We're here. It's not that we never weren't here, it's just we didn't get the public acknowledgement. And I want to publicly acknowledge those folks.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us today on CoinNewsExtra interview session.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
Okay.